Whether you're interviewing for a new job or facing your annual review, salary is always a looming issue. So how do you successfully negotiate what you earn for the work you do? Staffing manager Linda Garib is back with us today with some results of a new survey and some great tips. Good morning, Linda.
Hi, Cheryl. Good morning.
One of the hardest conversations I think people have in their lives is talking about money, compared to themselves and what they think they're worth and what a new employer thinks they're worth, right?
It is a tough conversation for people, and they're just not accustomed to doing it on a regular basis. But it's interesting. We've recently conducted a survey to see how are people doing with that topic, especially as they're looking to maybe make a job change. And only 39% of workers tried to negotiate a higher salary with their last job change.
That's amazing. So only about a third of people.
Yeah.
And was it different with men and women?
It was different. So men tended to negotiate higher. About 46% of men tried to negotiate a higher salary, where only 34% of women tried to negotiate a higher salary. So there was definitely a difference between the genders.
And what about age range? Was it a difference between the younger worker and the more seasoned worker?
There was also a difference with the age range. Yes, we definitely found that younger workers were a lot more likely to ask for more money and try to negotiate, where the other generations were a lot less likely to do it.
So any reason why men and the younger generation tends to negotiate where women and the older generation tend not to?
We didn't ask about that specifically in the survey, but you know what we encourage people to really do, regardless of how old you are or regardless of your gender, do your homework ahead of time and look at what is the position worth, what are you bringing to the table, and we really encourage everybody, especially in the market today, to negotiate salaries.
So when's the perfect time to do that when you've been offered a job or you're interviewing for a new job? When's the optimal time to start talking about salary?
Yeah, it's interesting. In the world today, you know, we're finding that employers are talking about salaries a lot sooner in the hiring process. You know, historically, it was really probably one of the last steps that you discussed, where now it's coming up as soon as either the first interview or the phone interview, because you want to know, like, what is this employer's expectation or what is the range, and you also want to be upfront in terms of what you're looking for to see that the two of them coincide with one another.
And a lot of times they'll ask you what's your current salary in order to figure out what the range is. Is that an illegal question in an interview, or it's definitely uncomfortable? So how do we get around that?
Yeah, it's not an illegal question yet. Now, some states are starting to pass legislation, like California did recently, where you can't ask that question. So I think that's going to change over the course of time in terms of can you ask that question. But I tell folks, always be prepared for a question like that and be ready to answer it, but also talk to the employer about what is the range that they're looking to offer for this position. And I think in the market today, where unemployment is really low, Virginia unemployment is even less than the national unemployment, employers have to really change their tactic in terms of salaries. And I think before, a lot of them based it on, okay, this is what the person made, so this is what I'm going to offer. Today, they got to really base it on what is the market value for that role and for that position. And really think about then, based on market value, this is the range that I'm looking to hire someone at, and then make the conversation with the candidate based on that range versus what they maybe historically have been paid.
And we have to do our homework too to know what our value in our position is.
Yes, that's a great point. So if you're the person that's interviewing for the job, you absolutely need to do your homework ahead of time. So go online. There's fantastic tools online right now that tell you what market value is based on industry experience, based on software skills, based on work history. You know, our company, Robert Half, we put out a salary guide that's very, very popular with folks every single year, because it gives them that information and it helps them to be well equipped of, okay, well, this is what the market says I should be getting paid based on my skill set.
Well, what happens if we get an offer that we don't really think is fair and they're not willing to budge on that?
Sure.
Do we walk away?
It depends. It depends. You know, I would just say if you feel like it's really not what you're looking for and not something that you can realistically commit to, then I tell folks, yeah, it is okay to say no. But I would also say to you, you got to look at what is the offer as a whole, and just remember the job offer is not always just about the salary. Now, the salary is obviously an important factor and a key factor for a lot of people, but you also have to think about whether the benefits look like, what are some of the perks that are offered in terms of time off or the ability to telecommute, how does this position maybe allow you to advance in your career. So you really have to take the whole picture into consideration before you say no. But if the salary is way off, then yeah, it is okay to say no, but I would encourage people first to at least come back and tell that employer, well, thank you so much, but this is really what I thought this position would pay me. So put that out there before you say no.
Right, and you talk about some of the benefits. Those are probably sometimes more negotiable than the salary is, and it makes a bigger package for you in the end.
Yeah, depending on the employer, absolutely. Sometimes there is more wiggle room with the benefits, and you're right, then once you start to compare, it could be that you're really making out better when you take all the benefits into consideration as well.
I guess the biggest takeaway from this is that we really have to say what we want.
You have to say what you want. You're absolutely right. Especially in the market today, you can't be afraid to speak up for yourself. And employers know today that good people are really hard to find, so they're a lot more willing to negotiate. And really, a lot of times, employers are expecting candidates to want to negotiate with them. So if you don't, you're really only shortchanging yourself.
And it's all about timing too, because the economy is very strong right now. So you probably have better negotiating point now than maybe if it takes a downturn.
Yes, it is definitely a candidate market right now. Good people are extremely hard to find, so you have to strike while the iron's hot.
All right, thank you, Linda Garib, for some great tips today.